Thank you all for coming. It's not always we have so many people in the council chambers, and luckily for a very good reason. So welcome, and we're glad you came out this evening. Mr. Clerk, the time is 7:01 p.m. on Tuesday, July 16th, 2019. I'd like to call the General Committee meeting to order. May I please have a motion to approve the agenda as circulated, including the additional items? Moved by Councillor Thompson, second by Councillor Gardner. Any questions or comments on the agenda? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Declarations of pecuniary interest. Any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we have one community presentation this evening. Mayor Marakis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just going to ask, I believe we do have a hard stop of 5 minutes on community presentations, and I'm just wondering if we can waive procedure to allow the presentation to go beyond 5 minutes, just in case it does.
Sure. Can you pass a motion?
I'll move that.
Move. Councillor Thompson, second. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Mr. Alan Dean. Sandra?
Not Alan Dean, but Alan unfortunately couldn't be with us this evening for personal reasons, but I'm standing in his place. So if that's all right with council.
Welcome, Sandra.
Thank you so much.
You have 10 minutes. At 1 minute remaining, you will hear a buzzer to remind you. Go ahead.
So good evening, Mayor Marakis and members of council. I'd also like to recognize a few special guests. MPP Michael Parsa, Don Gallagher-Murphy from MPP Elliott's office. We also have with us in the House Principal of Our Lady Grace, Inez Donato Legacy. Brenda Jones, who's a grade 8 teacher from Light of Christ, joined us with us this evening as well. And Bob McRoberts, the trustee for the Wire DSB. So thank you everybody for coming this evening. I'm really excited to have you all here with us. My name is Sandra Manners, and I sit as the president of Sport Aurora. Our mission is to develop sport and recreation here in our community for all ages, genders, and abilities. Included in this mission is our mandate to celebrate excellence and the love of sport. It therefore gives me great pleasure to be here with you this evening celebrating our School Athletes of the Year. I would like to extend our thanks for the opportunity to recognize these outstanding young athletes from the public and Catholic school boards. Each athlete was selected and named by their school for athletic excellence in their chosen sport. Sport Aurora has brought them together under one roof so that we can acknowledge their exceptional contributions and highlight their achievement in our community. Attracting young people into sport programs engages active minds, promotes physical and mental fitness, builds teamwork, communication skills, humility, integrity, passion, enthusiasm, and strong self-esteem and self-confidence. Qualities that are well represented in this room this evening and will serve these athletes well into their futures. Who knows, maybe we have the future Hall of Famer in our midst right now as well. Mayor Marakis and members of council, it gives me great pleasure to present these outstanding young athletes to you this evening. From Cardinal Carter, Aaliyah Piers, Joshua Nicholson, Jedechukwu Utu, from St. Max Colby, Ryan Weeks, from Dr. G.W. Williams, Jordan Green, Morgan McGee, Cameron Mwyer, from St. Jerome's, Anisha Gobbles, Cole Brown, from Devon's Drive, Darius Ross, Michaela Cranny, from Aurora Heights, Kate Brigham and Owen Nichols, from Our Lady of Grace, Matthew Valenti, Gabriella Mueller, from Aurora Grove, Trevor Smith, from Lester B. Pearson, William Dodd, Colin Sinclair, and Hunter Kim, from Regency Acres, Lily Zapata, from Rick Hansen, El Brody, and Arian Dam, from St. Joseph, Lucas Vaca, from Holy Spirit, Julia Rubino, from Light of Christ, Blanca Lottie, Edward Gentenyov, Andrew Mattel, and Sophia Purcell, from Wellington Public School, Natasieka White, Owen McNamara, Taryn Joy, Cameron Hunter. From Hartman Public School, Chidubem Azuranwa. From Highview Public School, Joshua Blades and Callista Curtis. Congratulations, everyone, on your achievement. I would now like to ask MPP Michael Parsa to the podium, as he also has a few words he'd like to share.
Good evening, everyone. I want to congratulate all of you. I have to tell you, I have just recently had the opportunity to celebrate as Jordan Bennington brought the Stanley Cup here to Richmond Hill. And it was a great opportunity for me to stand next to Jordan as he shared some of the stories as how he became the athlete that he is today, the troubles that he had to go through to get here. So I want to congratulate all of you. I want to congratulate your parents. I want to congratulate Sport Aurora and the town, the mayor, and all the councils for not only bringing here to celebrate your achievement, but I look forward to one day seeing one of you, like Jordan Bennington, like others, Elvis Deco, others here in York Region that have made us proud. Look forward to celebrating with you when you go into form your careers, whether it's in education, academics, or in sports. We look forward to celebrating. We're all very proud of you. Congratulations on your achievement, and see you in a few years. Thanks, guys.
So that we can get a picture with you and the kids? If that's all right. Thank you.
Have to set. There it is. Okay. First of all, I just want to say congratulations to each and every one of you. As MPP Parsa mentioned, we are all incredibly proud of your achievements, and we're looking forward to seeing how you continue to achieve at the highest level. So we all are very proud. But not only would I like to go up and take a picture with these extraordinary athletes from our town, but I'd also like to welcome all of council, as well as MPP Parsa. Don, if you could come up as well, and our school trustee, Bob McRoberts, who's here as well. If we could all come up here and just take a picture with these incredible athletes. So.
Thank you, everyone. There's not much that rivals seeing the success of our youth and the joy that they bring to our community. So that was wonderful. Could I get a motion to receive the presentation, please? Councillor Kim, Councillor Gilliland. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. We have two delegations this evening. The first one is Andrea Kariotis. Could I have you come to the podium, please? It's regarding the potential hydro lines in green space behind Pinnacle Trails. Please state your name and be reminded that you have 5 minutes for your presentation, and you will hear a buzzer when 1 minute is left. You have the floor.
Good evening, Chair, Mr. Mayor, and councillors. My name is Andrea Kariotis, a resident of 290 Pinnacle Trail in Aurora, Ontario, and I come before you to stress concerns about the potential hydro lines being placed in our green space 18 feet from our property line, which is our backyards. I hope you all had a chance to review the email I sent. Subject line was Pinnacle Trail Hydro One Concerns. I represent the neighbors of Pinnacle Trail that back onto the green space. Around May 23rd, we noticed stakes marked by Hydro One 18 feet from our property line. I spoke with 3 surveyors on June the 18th, saying that the stakes were for hydro poles going up to support Metrolink's Berry Line. Once I heard this, I contacted the offices of Hydro One, the MPP, the MP, and the town of Aurora looking for answers. Mr. Mayor, you contacted me. Thank you very much for that. Mr. Gallo, we also had a brief meet in regards to this issue, and you showed interest and concerns. I also have been contacted by other councillors showing interest and concerns in regards to this matter. I have signed petitions from concerned neighbors of Pinnacle Trail. We are 44 semi-homes and 2 detached homes that run along the hydro corridor. I have also been in contact with other concerned citizens in Aurora that might be affected by this project. Our concerns, first and most important, is our health. What will the double layer of hydro lines mean to our health and to our children? There is already a hydro tower in the back corridor. We oppose a secondary hydro project in our backyards and green space that the community enjoys using daily. The second concern is the value of our property. What will this project do to the value of our homes? Adding a second layer of hydro lines will surely devalue our properties. Residents on Pinnacle Trail, whose homes back onto the green space, were not notified prior to the staking or even after the staking, the Hydro One project for Metrolinx. Once the concerned citizens started making phone calls to the Hydro One Community Relations, the town of Aurora, and the MPPs, and our story also hit the media, then we received a community notice that we are listening. They will explore all possible relocations and options. We do not want to wait until it's too late. We need to act now with the help. With your help, we need to stop this project from passing. Our yards is not an option. In closing, I am one person with the help and support of my neighbors. We need to stop this project. We oppose this plan and we will fight till the end. However, we need your help and your support. We need your resources and influences to help us to stop this project from passing in our green space. There must be other alternatives, such as non-residential fields, existing towers, and even lines that run along the train tracks. They can run a power source for Metrolinx that way. I cannot stress enough that we do not want this project in our yards and green space that our communities use daily. There is a soccer field, there's walking paths, and there's even wildlife back there. We need your representation to help us stop Metrolinx and Hydro One from passing this project. Thank you for your time, Mr. Mayor, councilors and chair. So what do we need to do now, and where do we go from here?
Thank you, Ms. Karyotis. Could I first get a motion to receive the delegation, please? Mayor Marakis, Councillor Thompson. Any questions or comments to the delegate? Councillor Gardner.
Hi. Thank you for coming. I can understand that would be of concern to you. Do you know, I know that Hydro staked this area. Do you know if Hydro is intending to do this expansion in your area?
From what we understand, they are scoping out the area, and they have said that they are looking at other options, that it's only in the preliminary stages. But we don't want it to pass in case they say, well, this is the only option, and sorry, we are going to run it in your yards. So they have not indefinitely said yes or no. They're basically, they will let us know. Once they know what they're going to do, then they're going to have a community meeting, and they're going to address it to the community and to our neighbors.
Thank you, and I can see you've got a lot of support here tonight.
I do. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.
If we could just leave it till the end, and that way we'll be a little more efficient. Councillor Humphreys, please.
I thank you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight through Mr. Chair. Did you have any formal communication back from the hydro company on what they're planning? Was there any written communication
There was
to you?
no written communication directly to me as of yet, but I have been in contact verbally over the phone with, hold on one second, I have her name here. Julia Baldessera. So we've been contacted with her on the phone, and she basically said once they have something indefinite, then she will send me an email and let us know what the plan is, that she will keep me in the loop. And I'm hoping that she sticks by her word.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I understand your concerns as well. So if there's anything we can do through Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor, if there's any concerns that we can relay to the hydro company, we absolutely will. And see what alternative options that they are considering. So I appreciate that contact, and Julia Baldessero.
Yes.
And I may just call in well and just see what we can do. Like, what are the plans, and how quickly will they be keeping you in the loop? But I really appreciate your work, and the residents continue to do that, because that's how we get through these things. So thank you very much for your passion for your neighbors, and neighbors working together on this. So we'll keep an eye on it as well.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. I echo what Councillor Humphreys has said. I was going to ask you similar questions, so I just want to say thank you for bringing it to our attention and keeping us in a loop and letting us know what your concerns are. That's the best way to kind of get us on board and look at what our options are, and talk with Metrolinx and Hydro and learn what's going on there, and hopefully do its best interest for the community and the neighbors. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Appreciate any help we can get.
Thank you. Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mrs. Baldessero, for taking the time to write us, and all of you for coming out this evening. Certainly when we received your email, I think most of us, including myself, it was the first time of hearing of this project. And knowing now the history of it, and so far it is alarming to have an additional set of lines being placed there. Hydro One and Metrolinx is a entity of the province, so we don't have any direct influence, but certainly we'll certainly weigh in with as much influence as we can, because this is certainly something of a great issue to all of you, and certainly if it was in my neighborhood, it would certainly be an issue for me, if anything, as you mentioned, the health item. I know that a a few years ago, we said schools were not our jurisdiction, and yet we were able to, with some influence, be able to, or are weighing in, able to, help change that. So, I'm optimistic, or hopefully optimistic, that we can weigh in here. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
And thank you for being here and raising the concern. It's always a bit of a challenge. That certainly is a big impact to the neighborhood. But as we've seen in the past with Canada Post, with cell towers, they don't have to abide by the town's municipal laws and zoning regulations. They're above us, and so they just sort of push through on certain projects. But we've been able in the past to be successful in engaging them and trying to ensure that there's a solution that works for everybody. So what I've seen from Hydro One is their commitment to work with the community, and we'll certainly hold them to it. And hopefully we'll be able to come up with a resolution that is acceptable. But at the end of the day, as some of the other councillors alluded, we don't have final say in it, but we'll do what we can.
That's all we can ask for.
Thank you. Mayor Maracus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, Andrea, thank you very much for coming. Appreciate it. Just to let everyone know, I did meet with the representatives from Hydro One today in my office. I did ask for them to come out here this evening. Unfortunately, they declined that invitation. What I can say is that I did relay the message and the concerns of the residents from the area. I also mentioned that I'm in opposition personally myself from these lines being proposed and being put in this specific area. They have showed that willingness to sit down and work with us. They said that it's still in very early stages, which is what you heard, that they are looking at multiple options. They still haven't come up with all the options, and once they do, they will sit down with us and have those conversations and see obviously what works best, not only for them, but for the community as a whole. So I can assure you and the residents that we, as a council and myself as the mayor, will do whatever we can to make sure that it is in the best interest of the town and of the residents. So I will keep you and all the residents informed as soon as anything comes up in regards to this issue.
Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate it. We all appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Kariotis. And I think this is one example of why Aurora is so great. It really is, and it doesn't happen all that often, but to have an individual in a neighborhood to come forward and push an issue that's important to them, and you've brought it this far, and if I have any sense of you, you're not going to sit back and let it go by. So congratulations to all of you. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Delegation B, Mr. Gorman. You have 5 minutes, as you're well aware, and you'll hear a buzzer 1 minute in. The floor is yours.
Much. So I'm here on behalf of the library board to endorse the Library Square corridor option 3. This came to light, in fact, last time I was speaking with you about this possibility, and now it's in front of us here. I'm showing you one of my favorite pictures of the renderings that were produced just earlier this week, as you have that in your package. So I wanted to quickly talk about our perspective. I'm going to tell you some things that I've told you in the past, but it's worth mentioning again that this town is growing and your public library is growing. Some of those numbers up there, additional 36,000 people we had in 2018, 961 programs, up 14% last Monday or Monday ago. We added another 4.5 open hours to our library for a total of 66 per week, not including the closure for the Sundays in the summer. We're growing. An area of importance to us is our programming. So I don't think there's enough public programming space in this town. I want to do everything I can to provide rich programming from a library's perspective and rich programming that the town would like to see and that the residents would like to use space for whatever it is that's important to them. We have 6 study rooms. The moment we open at 9:30 every morning, they are immediately consumed by people, and every waking hour, every open hour, there's someone in those meeting rooms, including just past Monday when we opened for the second Monday ever without promoting it. At 9:30, those rooms were full. Magna and Lebovic are extremely busy. We took over the management of those last year. Year to date, right now, we're up 10%. It's hard to find space, time, the time that people want in those rooms, so they're very busy. We just finished a renovation project, so we have a new creative studio and multi-purpose room that we added to that docket of public space. Already the early demand for that is exceeding my expectations. As we promote those for our programming and make them available to the community, I'm firmly in belief that they will be very busy as well. So what are the benefits for the library? With only 2 minutes left here. The benefits of Option C, no doubt, the heavy lifting of this for us is these program spaces, the 2 program rooms, the new ones, as well as the potential possible boardroom. We'll be able to do richer, more meaningful programming for us, for the community, for the residents of Aurora to use those rooms as they engage in their daily lives, not to mention the unique outdoor garden. But it's important to remember that the crux of this project for the library and the library board was that we add program rooms in Aurora, which is exactly what we're trying to do. So if I can be so bold to talk to you about a few of the benefits that the town would see. I've talked on numerous occasions about Yonge Street being, maybe not today, but a future gateway to this part of our community. That will happen as the area matures, as there are more medium density residences there. That will become a more walkable space. People will have that as an entry point to the library and Library Square. I assume there'll be parking over on Yonge Street at some point as the community also matures. So I've been in the convention space in Halifax for 15 years. The opportunity for us to host conventions, I think, is something that we should consider strongly, with the auditorium as a primary venue and breakout rooms as these possible rooms. You have 2 quality Intercontinental and Wyndham hotel establishments coming to town with 200 meeting rooms, so that's something that I think you should really look at closely. I've heard even today some discussion about the elevator on Yonge Street. I'll say it again, the heavy lifting for me is the program spaces, but to finish off that entryway is the right thing to do for Aurora, to make that a gateway, a pleasant new place to enter the library, and Library Square is important. Those numbers I heard today are from $250,000 to $400,000, depending on how luxurious the elevators are. You see on the screen there, the library board is committed $3.4 million out of our DC reserved to this project. So in fact, we are the primary funder. We're thankful that the town from the Hydro Fund is contributing 2.07. Really, that means that we're holding about 60% of the cost of this corridor. So we want, we're happy to do that, but you should leverage that $1 for the $2.70 that you're getting. That makes your contribution, if you're interested in an elevator, $87,000 to $140,000. So that shouldn't get in the way of what we're trying to do here. A couple other little things like the HVAC units need to be replaced.
If you could wrap up, please. Unless you're... Sure. Let's just finish it. Yeah.
So that's my final slide. We're really happy. We think it's that important. We've contributed $3.4 million in addition to the 1.9 for the bridge. So we are vested in this along with the town. We think the corridor extension, Option C, is the right thing for all of us to do. We're in full support of it, and we hope you consider that in your decision later this afternoon. I thank you very much for your time. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Gorman. I let you continue because you were going to put some money on the table, and I always enjoy your passion. Could I get a motion to receive, please? Councillor Humphreys, Councillor Kim, any questions? Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much for this presentation tonight. It really answered a lot of questions that I had a little later on in tonight's meeting, so that's fantastic. There was one question I had. You had shown that there was an increase in hours, I guess, lately because of activity going on at the library. So once the opening of the Cultural Center, Library Square, do you have plans of increasing your hours even longer to service the community?
parked, and I'm getting questioned about more open hours. So yes, we increased, and I made you aware of this as well. It was a decision that the board made to open Monday mornings. Now open Monday 9:30 and instead of 1, and we stay open an extra hour on Friday evening to catch the commuters coming back for the weekend who want to grab some material. I'm not opposed to looking at additional hours. We did a survey last year, and the community spoke about their desire to have extended Sunday hours. I have nothing on the table for that right now, but that is something that we may look at as well. But that brings us right now to, not including when we close on Sundays in the summertime, 66 hours a week of service to the community, which we're really proud of.
Great, that's it, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Humphreys?
Thank you, to you, Mr. Chair, and thank you very much, Bruce, for being here this evening, and many members of the Cultural Center and Library. I want to thank you for your passion and also for your commitment to the partnership of this spectacular project. I really do think it's extremely significant, and we're yourself, the board. I know I'm on the board, but I just believe it's the right thing to do, and I really appreciate your thought process around it and the future, not just for Table, way in the future, and this is an excellent opportunity to grasp the best of this. So thank you very much for your positive partnership.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gardner?
Just for clarification, talk about adding a boardroom. So there is already a boardroom?
Boardroom in the library for sure, but the potential of a boardroom or possibly a lounge area, which you see in the renderings, that decision hasn't been made. I would always take another room. Boardrooms are actually good rooms for the public to use, and if we were to get into, as collectively in the convention business, when you do have a convention, that's where the executive of the collection live or set up their space so they can run conventions, right? So I'll always call it a boardroom if you wish, with a boardroom table in there, but I'll always take an additional space. That's not going to change the fact that we have a boardroom. We use it for our daily business, including our board meetings.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kim?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wasn't quite sure, through Mr. Mayor, to Bruce, are you happy about this?
About this?
Yeah,
I'm ecstatic about this.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Did you think I wasn't? No, I don't think I could be any happier. I think what's unfolded in the past months with the bridge, and now if this corridor is approved, I think we've nailed it. I think we've done something fabulous for tomorrow, the next day, and many generations into the future. And I've said this numerous of times, this could be an important legacy that this council leaves to the town.
Thank you.
Is that happy?
Thank you. Councillor Thompson?
Thank you. Thank you for being here, Bruce. One of the components that you're advocating for is an outdoor reading garden. When I first saw this, it was in Halifax. They had that sort of rooftop reading. And I'm just curious, from your experience being in Halifax, do you know of any sort of utilization stats? Like, how often was that being used? Because some of the comments I've heard is about, listen, we're in Canada. We don't always have great weather, especially this year. And so some people are wondering, how often does it get used? I'm sure Halifax has weather challenges more so than we do. And so I'm just curious, from your perspective, was that a well-used feature in Halifax?
From my experience, absolutely it was. People always want to get outside if they can get outside. We manage that space in terms of we wouldn't open it under inclement conditions. But the minute we open that, people are out there having their coffee or enjoying the outdoor space. There's no doubt, lots of studies done too on the benefits of being outside in the sunshine and the wind in your hair, etc. But it was well used in Halifax, and it'd be well used here for sure, no doubt.
Thank you. And with my colleagues' indulgence, I just wonder that perhaps if we could also give some thought that if there are further questions that we might have during the report, maybe we could waive procedural bylaw and invite Bruce up as we've done in the past. But in terms of the presentation, I don't have any myself now.
Thank you. Councillor Gilliland for the second time.
Thank you. To you, Mr. Chair. A couple questions. I know that we're advocating for an elevator and such for after hours use, and I was just wondering if the library would be open to keeping that corridor open after hours. Much like buildings downtown Toronto, you'd be able to walk through, but there's sections that are closed off. Is that something that you would be open to doing?
Yeah, right now that corridor, or the foyer, is open 8-ish to 10 p.m.-ish, depending on what type of events we have on in there. And in fact, right now, currently, the hours are really determined by town staff, who are the ones that open the door and lock the door. I think to have it open longer hours, certainly related to an event going on that was, at midnight, would be fabulous. But I wouldn't be opposed to having that open longer. It'd be discussions with the town, though, for sure. The town staff are the ones that manage the opening and the closing of the foyer right now.
Okay. Okay. So the elevator then, it was specific. I like the idea of the facade and everything, but it's really specific so you could get up to the next level. But somebody could get to the next level from the cultural center, correct? And then make their way across?
Yeah, they could. I mean, it's a big facility, right? So you want to make some Library Square as accessible as possible and as easy to get to as possible, right? So let's say, and my experience, libraries close on Friday and Saturday nights, and I have experience in Halifax where that's when we hosted private events. So I would see us maturing to a place where we have private events, whether it's the library or the town hosting events on a Friday night. Let's say, as an example, we were having a tree lighting at Christmas time that was outside in the square. Maybe people would like to enter through that Yonge Street on a Saturday night, go up to that elevator, and then enjoy the view from the bridge, as an example, right? Rather than have to navigate around to some other entrance. The more ability you give to people to enter this space, the better. I see Friday and Saturday nights as an area of growth, that these spaces, all of them, the auditorium and these two rooms in the corridor, could be well used.
Great, perfect,
Yeah.
thank you.
Or as an example, if there was a conference going on and the people in the conference were out having their meals in the noon hour at all the lovely restaurants on Yonge Street, rather than having to come back and walk in and march through the library to go to the breakout rooms right upstairs, they would just go right upstairs. If the convention business is something you should really consider. Convention people, they love a few things. They love quality hotel chains, which we have, and they love very easy ability to get to the spaces that they need for whatever breakout sessions they're undertaking, right?
Gotcha, perfect. No, I appreciate that. I really wanted that fulsome look of what it meant, and if we're gonna be investing in the stairs, the facade, and the elevator, what's that benefit, and you've explained that very well.
To 140 is a good investment for an elevator. Your contribution, right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Shamelessly, he says.
Councillor Gardner?
Thank you. I'm a little bit confused by a couple of things. Are you trying to position the library as an event convention center with these new additions?
What I want to do is work with the town in Library Square to do all kinds of great things in this facility. We can work together, which is exactly what I intend to do with the town. So I've said this many times, maybe we have, I'll use convention as an example, maybe there's a convention in the primary spot is the auditorium, and the breakout rooms are these two lovely rooms in the corridor as an example. Right?
So the answer to that is yes.
I want to work with the town. That's what I want to do.
But my question was, are you trying to position the library as more of an event?
The library could
convention
absolutely be
center?
a place for events, right? I mean, when you have events of any kind, right? The library could be too, right? We should position Library Square as a place where Aurorans can gather to do all kinds of interesting activities, whether it's an evening concert in the auditorium or some reception in the library or events going on in meeting rooms in the corridor. It should be, as I think squares should be in towns, a place where the town gathers to undertake all kinds of activities that engage them in their lives.
And would these rooms and this space be available for the town to use at no cost?
So, we will be working out all the granular details of that, but those aren't questions I have perfect answers to yet.
Thank you.
But my intent all along, as well as the town's intent, has been to work together to make this square as rich and meaningful to the community as it can be.
And the question is, at what cost?
The question is, yep, so
You
that's
don't
a
have to
decision
answer,
the
that's
council.
just rhetorical.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Anything else?
The last question is, you're talking about the financial climate. This financial climate may not come again. I don't quite follow you there.
So interest
that's
rates are
Robin's.
low, construction costs are in a place that I haven't seen them in some time. They may come, you know, an economic climate may come again, who knows? But right now I think it's a very positive economic climate for construction, interest rates, debenturing, those types of things. And maybe I could defer to the finance department on that, but I think it's a positive climate.
Okay.
But I'm
thank
not
you.
an economic expert either.
No, it's mentioned in, okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yep.
Any other comments? Seeing none, thank you very much. Appreciate your time and your comments. Call the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carries, thank you. Moving on to the consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda C1 to C4 in our package? Councillor Thompson.
I just wanted to make a comment about C1. I'd asked for it to be put on the agenda, if that's okay.
Do you have any quick comments now?
It's just a
or-
quick comment. You know, it is the election wrap-up. I just thought that it had some value in terms of giving a little post-mortem on how it went, the costs associated. And I just thought that, you know, a little congratulations should go to municipal staff, especially to Mr. Durand for the organization. We, you know, it was the first time we did online voting. There was a lot of debate about it last term in terms of moving forward. There was a little bit of hiccup while we waited for the results, but it wasn't necessarily a town issue. It was more, as noted in the report, a universal issue. But I think overall, while disappointing to see that engagement rates were down a few percent from prior elections, you know, you look at all municipalities and it was down across the board. But I still think that staff did a great job at trying to make it as seamless as possible. And so I just wanted to offer my appreciation to Mr. Durand and his staff.
So do you still want to pull it, or you're okay?
I just wanted to make a comment. That's all I wanted to do.
All right. So can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda C1 to C4? Councillor Gilliland, Councillor Humphreys. Any comments, questions? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Can I get a motion to receive the advisory committee meeting minutes A1 to A4, please? Sorry, A1 to A3, sorry. Councillor Gardner,
Thank you. I have some questions.
okay.
Thank you. On A1, which is the Accessibility Advisory Committee minutes, they did talk about Library Square, and one of the things they're talking about is exterior and interior accessible pedestrian routes. I don't really know what that means, but when any committee makes a comment, where will these comments go? Will they go to the people in charge of the project yes, so if council approves, okay.
Mr. Clerk, did you get an answer to that?
I got a head nod.
Just to get on the record, absolutely. Everyone in the room receives the comments, incorporates them into the reports to council.
And do the consultants have to take them into consideration?
Through you, Mr. Chair, absolutely. In some cases, they certainly do. You know, especially in cases where the AODA may be infringed upon. Certainly, consultants have to take into consideration the comments of the committee.
So we have some people sitting in the audience who understand what I'm talking about. I think some of these comments are to increase the AODA a little bit. So will you be able to let us know if they're possible, or let the committee know if they're possible? Could we have some? I can't ask you to respond. So
the consultants will be coming up and doing a presentation on
Okay.
R1, so maybe you can ask them.
Excellent. I can ask you then. Thank you. One of the other recommendations is having an induction loop in the Holland Room, perhaps through you to Mr. Nadarozny. Nadarozny. So what happens with something like that? Because that is to help people with hearing issues?
Through you, Mr. Chair, so that information would be taken into consideration by our facilities group, and they would present possibly an option at budget time for an upgrade, or it might be handled as part of the overall planned refresh of the town hall. So
Thank you. So
that's
the
where it would be.
appropriate staff reads these
Correct.
reports and picks up what they need to?
Right.
Thank you. Last one is, they're talking about the Ontario BIA Association Handbook. Now that we have our own BIA, there are some things that can be done at no cost or low cost that the committee is suggesting should be done. So would these be passed on to our own BIA to help our businesses improve their accessibility?
Through you, Madam Chair, most definitely our staff representative will make sure the BIA
Please.
is aware of them.
Thank you very much. On A2, page 2, so this is the community committee. They're talking about the aquatic facility feasibility study, and their recommendations are, about outreach. So again, would our social media group read their comments and try and do what they are suggesting here? They're just talking about surveys, media, potential users, current users, group homes, private club members, therapy providers. Like, how far do we go when we're trying to look at a new aquatics facility? Maybe that's for Ms. McDougall.
Who would you like to? Okay, Ms. McDougall.
Through you, Mr. Chair. We had staff in the Community Services Division participate and attend that day, that meeting, along with the consultant that is leading this project. So we heard the committee firsthand and were able to have dialogue with the committee members about their recommendations and input. There already was partly a communications plan outlined for this study, but certainly through the committee's inputs, we've been able to incorporate a few additional components and outreach as far as the different user groups, the general public, certainly from council members, encouraging their participation, as well as reaching out beyond our borders and participations from other user groups or clubs outside of Aurora and their interest in potentially in a new facility, new aquatic facility. So I know that they took a lot of input from that committee and have already started to incorporate that into the project plans.
Thank you, because there's really no point having committees give us feedback if at least we don't look at it and see if it's feasible. Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you very much. Could I get a motion to receive the advisory committee meeting minutes, items A1 to A3, please? Mayor Marakis, Councillor Kim, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Consideration of items requiring discussion. R1. Presentation. Do we have a presentation from the consultants regarding R1, Library Square? Do we? Robin?
If I may
Ms.
introduce
McDougall?
them?
Yes,
okay,
please.
that'll help. Just to help clarify. Actually, we've got quite a few back there that I wanted to, just while I take this opportunity, so in addition to the presenters today, to bring council's attention, we have hired project management firm Colliers. So in our audience behind us today are members of that project management firm. Les Cam, Mark Haddock, and Deepu Balaraman are here today to as one of their initial meetings with us. In addition to that, we have hired our contract position as the manager of Library Square, Phil Rose Donahoe. He's also present behind us as well. So I did want to draw your attention to, in addition to the consultants leading this part, we also have a slate of project management team here ready to take us forward from this part forward for this project. So leading us in this presentation as it relates specifically to the corridor is Planning Partnership in particular. There's sub-consultants, Raw Design, Raw Architects. And today, I believe, is Roland Ramkoloff will be presenting with support, whether if he needs to, with Thomas Namaskari or David may also. So Roland, could you please come forward?
Welcome. Thank you.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. Roland Ramkoltov, Raw Design, as Robin had introduced us. I'll try and figure out how to use this mouse correctly. Doesn't advance.
Just one.
Can I scroll?
I would love to listen to your presentation, but
Just for a minute.
I have to leave because I'm just going to become a grandmother, and I want to be there for that. So I shall watch it on YouTube.
Okay.
Good luck. Floor is yours.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I think you may all remember the presentation we gave for the actual bridge element itself, which I'm outlining here through the mouse on the presentation here. So we're showing you here the bridge in its eventual state. I'm also here to walk you through 3 different options as to how that might connect to the library. I think the library has already given you their opinion as to what the best connection is, but I'll show you the various options that work with that. In this diagram, we're also showing you how we connect to the theater or the cultural center itself. There's a small space here which will accommodate some of the ice resurfacer and some of the equipment relevant to the operation of the square itself, and tuck it away out of sight. It'll also mean that the square will be clear at all times of year. There'll be snow storage happening back there as well. That also provides basically the footing or the foundation for the bridge to come in and meet with the theater center itself. There's a bridge and a stair in that location. On the library side of the square, we're proposing that the library vestibule be expanded, which is what you're seeing here. Currently, this side of the library looks out onto the square in the same motion as it does onto Yonge Street. The actual door is tucked well back into the building, out of sight in the shade. You need to go up either a handicapped ramp or a flight of steps to actually get into the library from Yonge Street. It's a bit of a barrier, quite frankly, to entry to the library. This slide is showing you option A, which is the sort of the low budget option. We would have to bring in here in this shaded area in blue on the second floor some new construction, which we're calling the corridor here. We would be renovating the staff lunchroom and providing a connection to the existing exit stair in the library there. That's required for both life safety reasons and also just simple access. It does mean that this bridge would not be able to be function in an accessible manner without the library being open and the elevator in the library, which is roughly over here, to be functioning and operating. You could do it through the theater and cultural center facility, but that's at a bit of a remove. The other thing is that because we need to come in here, we have to relocate these ducts to start with, and then we have to sort of creep around the exit stair and enter into the library in this location here. The second option, option B, or sorry, this is still option A. The second option, option B, takes the corridor right through the north side of the library. It provides the outdoor reading space that was mentioned before. In addition, we're also proposing that this option B would also include renovation of these 2 existing mechanical penthouses either side of the reading area, so that those could be program spaces. This building was designed for that eventuality, so making this change should be relatively straightforward. It would add obviously some additional program area to the library in terms of the corridor itself, being additional space for people to use on an informal basis at any time of day. It also means that we could have an elevator at the west end of that corridor that takes you directly down to Yonge Street. You would still have to go up the ramp and the stair, but you would have a new elevator and a new vestibule directly adjacent to Yonge Street to bring you up and into the corridor system and across Library Square with a view that's afforded of that to the south, of course, and then into the theater complex itself. The third option is option C, where we're proposing that we do some additional renovations on the ground floor of the building to provide that the elevator be accessed directly from sidewalk level. So it's a much more generous and accessible way of getting into the structure itself. You would come in off the sidewalk on Yonge Street, enter into the elevator. You could go up to the library floor proper, or you could proceed up to the second floor where there's a suite of the two new program rooms. There's the reading garden we mentioned, there's the corridor itself, and also in conjunction with that, a new boardroom or lounge space on the Yonge Street frontage of the building, which would provide a new programmable area for the library, but also announce this new complex to the public as a very bright sort of beacon onto Yonge Street. Those are really the three options we wanted to show you. I don't know why this is repeating. And these are the views of the bridge. We showed you some of these before. We've elaborated on them a bit. So this is from the library looking from the theater center looking towards the library. You can see we've made the bridge wide enough so it acts as a program space in its very own right. Whoops. This is a view from the corridor that we've been talking about, looking back towards the theater center. So that's the library square that you're looking through there, with the bridge off to your left in the image. This is a view of the corridor in option B, the reading garden, which we think will be a fabulous space at most times a year, including shoulder seasons. It is protected by the existing walls of the mechanical penthouse that are there, or if it becomes program areas, those walls as well. This would show the view at the end of the corridor abutting Yonge Street, which would come in behind the existing sort of turret that's there on Yonge Street. And as an option, we could take that space, that lounge space, and turn it into a boardroom, as Bruce alluded to. It could be secured for various program functions, or it could be just used informally on that basis. And that's the view of the library addition from Yonge Street as a bright beacon at nighttime. That's the presentation.
Thank you very much. Could I get a motion to receive, please? Councillor Humphreys, Councillor Kim, any questions or comments, please? Councillor Thompson.
Thank you for being here and for the presentation. With regards to the elevator being accessible from the exterior, in my experience, I've run across that in very few occasions, but I'm just curious from your experience, can you suggest some other, I guess, public buildings or buildings whereby they have elevators like this where it's accessible from street level?
Well, to be clear, the elevator is accessed through the front vestibule of the library, so we do have a set of doors on the outside.
True.
It's very difficult to design an elevator to withstand the elements. They're not really designed for that. So there is a set of doors, the library vestibule, through which you'd enter, then proceed to the elevator. So you would have the option to lock those off, should you require to do so for security reasons. But this option also allows you to keep that open when the library itself is actually closed, and operated as part of a conjunction of rooms, the 4 program rooms, both on the ground floor and second floor of the library, and then over to the cultural center.
Then if I have a follow-up question, then other situations that are similar to this that I can look to as examples that you know of? And if you can't think of it now, if you want to email Robin later and stuff and pass it along?
Certainly we can give you a bunch of options like that. Well, what automatically springs to mind is, say, Calgary's Plus 15 network, which has a number of elevators in various buildings that bring you up to the public walkway that takes you through the city. And those are operated at all hours of the day, regardless of whether the building is open or not. They're meant for the public, and I'm sure we could find some examples here locally in Toronto as well.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay. Calling question. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you very much. Item R1. Could I get a motion on the floor from anyone? Councillor Gilliland? Councillor Kim? The recommendation? Recommendation? Is that where you're moving? Oh, let's get it on the floor, but I just want to make sure what you're moving. Thank you. Councillor Gilliland, Councillor Kim, any comments or questions? Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple questions for Ms. McDougall. With the HVAC work and the budget that we've allotted for that, have we factored in the cost of what it would be to redirect the equipment that's there? Has that been part of the budget?
Through you, Mr. Chair, at this time, no. That would be a factor I could look into for next week. The HVAC, the estimate that's in our report incorporates the estimate that was put in the 10-year capital plan, assuming it was to be replaced in the location they're in. To lift them to the rooftop, now you can please step in if, correct me if I'm wrong. The fact that that's changed, we're now lifting it to the rooftop, was not part of the presentation today, but it can be corrected if I'm wrong. I mean, obviously, HVAC is required to make those work, but the capital cost that was part of the repair and replacement for those was part of our 10-year capital plan and is in our plan to do so. So it's gray, but I will clarify that before next week.
Okay, perfect. And through you, Mr. Chair, the cost of the elevator itself, I know we talked offline. I was wondering if you could clarify the separate cost for the elevator itself. Should that option be something we want to discuss separate?
Ms. McDougall?
Through you, Mr. Chair, after confirmation with a cost consultant on this project, for an elevator to have a two-stop, to go from the main foyer lobby of the library to the corridor that's proposed, is approximately $250,000. That includes the electrical, the shaft. It includes all that's necessary. If you're to drop it another half floor, that's an extra cost. So I'd imagine it would potentially be an extra $50,000 to drop it an extra half floor, is what I've been advised. As far as extra enhancements, we were also throwing in a figure potentially of about $400,000, but that's if it's like a glazing glassed outer walls of the elevator. So 250 gives you a standard elevator shaft for from floor to floor.
Perfect, thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair. With the elevator, just because it's a genuine question, I'm not sure who would be absorbing the operation costs and maintenance costs of the elevator. Would that be something shared through the library board since it's in the library, or is it the town assuming that cost?
Ms. McDougall?
Through you, Mr. Chair, at this point, the operations of and maintenance are under the town's maintenance budget for the library and under those costs, so it would fall under the same contract. We would utilize the same contract for an elevator service provider that we have for other elevators in the municipality. We would follow suit with that for this site.
Perfect. Okay, and one last comment. You had mentioned about the facade, and we're talking about the access with the elevator and some of the pros and cons of that. And you mentioned that eventually that the ramp at the front of the library would have to be replaced because it's to be up to date and compliant. So we're actually taking advantage of an opportunity to make improvements to the facade now and addressing something we would already need to address. Do you clarify?
Ms. McDougall?
Through you, Mr. Chair, certainly to be clear, the ramp itself meets the accessibility and people can use it today, it's fine. Today's code, if we were to build brand new ramp today, it does not. So it's a matter of if we're doing major renovation in the front of that building, we will have to do the ramp. It's not that we have to just pick that off at any point and do it. It's if we do major renovations, we'll have to bring it up to current code. So I just wanted to be clear of how to clarify. If we're doing major renovations, that ramp will have to be improved. If we leave it as is, it'll be fine to be utilized as it is. It does meet the accessibility requirements. It's just if major renovation is being done at that site, we will have to attend to that ramp to meet today's code.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can I ask Linda to put up on the screen the exterior shot of the library from Yonge Street? This R1 slide right there. Perfect. Thank you. Through you to Mr. McDougall. Just to clarify your last comment. Should we wish to do the work to the facade and really upgrade the front of the library, we can take away the ramp if we have an elevator that goes to the ground floor and still be compliant with the AODA legislation.
Ms. McDougall?
Through you, Mr. Chair, if we take away the ramp, we'd have to have the elevator in order to meet accessibility. With the staircase there has to be a means to obtain and provide accessible entrance to the main foyer, main level of the library.
Perfect, thank you. You know, I in preparing for this meeting, I had an opportunity to sit down with Mr. Gorman. I sat down with Ms. McDougall as well as Mr. Nadarozny. You know, I too had some concerns with regards to the elevator, the costs associated with this option, it being accessible from the outside, although there is a vestibule. But, you know, talking to them and listening to, you know, Bruce's comments about the benefits for the library and Ms. McDougall's, and also the fact that it is true. If we're going to do this enhancement and really make a wow factor for the front of the library and keep it in line with what we'd like to see Yonge Street evolve into, you know, I like this facade, but, you know, doing some of those enhancements require the removal of the ramp, and therefore you need to do the elevator. And while maybe it's better to do it down the road, you know, I come back to the SARC. We had talked about, you know, putting a gymnasium in the SARC, and in my perspective, that should have been done when the SARC was built. But now we are here 10 years later, and we're talking about doing it again, and, you know, costs escalate. It becomes more problematic. And so, you know, I was pleased to learn that it's not a significant cost to add the elevator to the ground floor. You know, I was concerned it was $1 million or so, but I think that the overall benefits of it all, granted, it keeps bringing the price tag up, and we're close to $50 million now, but I think that, you know, from a long-term perspective, it's a significant investment in our downtown core, and I'll be supporting tonight's recommendation.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Nadarozny or Ms. McDougall, is this estimate a Class A or a Class B estimate, where Class A is roughly about 5 to 10%, and Class B a little bit more than that?
Ms. McDougall?
This estimate is actually a Class D estimate. So the estimate of the rest of the project that you've seen is a Class C. This one is still at a high-level conceptual Class D estimate. So the intention is this project would be refined and continue to be refined through construction documentation with a further refinement of that budget to a Class B and ultimately to a Class A estimate, which you'll see in approximately December timeframe. We'll bring that back. So this, if approved tonight, it would continue to pass through that refinement through the processes of design and then ultimately construction design and documentation. Okay. So you're looking at a Class D for this component.
Okay. Thank you. That's a greater variance than I had anticipated, but and so that kind of raises other questions. However, you know, given that we're not there yet, there's no point wasting time in asking those questions now, because we have an opportunity to raise those questions at that time, make a decision at that time. You know, in terms of the creativity that's been disclosed in terms of the funding, you know, $3.4 million using library DCs, and staff has indicated to us, just to share with everyone else who are not aware, is that you know, the funding will be available, you know, over 10 years, as the library is anticipating to receive $479,000 in DCs each year over the next 10 years, and the conservative estimate is to have a 20-year debenture in case there is you know, there's a case for slower growth. So I'm pleased with the creativity involved here, and in terms of the numbers that's been presented before us, I do feel a level of comfort at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. R2, Library Square, next steps. Could I get a motion, please? Councillor Humphreys, Councillor Gilliland. Any comments or questions? Seeing, no, Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Through you, Ms. McDougall. It's really just a comment. You know, I appreciate the schedule at the back of this report, and I certainly hope that the project schedule is true. I guess I have some concerns, you know, looking at some other projects, and I was speaking with Mr. Nadarozny earlier. You know, the JOC took essentially, 20 months to build, which is sort of the same time frame we're advocating for all of Library Square. In my opinion, it's a much more complex project, and so I'm a little bit concerned about the overall timing of it and the project scheduling of it. You know, to me, it's a little bit of aggressive, but I hope I'm wrong. I hope it does, but I certainly want to see us continue to keep that schedule front of mind, and hopefully, bring the reports either through the FAC committee or to council with regards to the scheduling, because as we've seen with some other projects, even the Armory today, things tend to fall behind a little bit, and I'd really like to see this kept on time.
Thank you. Councillor Humphreys, please.
Thank you, through Mr. Chair, to Ms. McDougall. I just want to say two things. One, I do appreciate the report. It's one of the things I was looking at is comments from all the different committees and feedback, and I think you've captured that really well, and that's really important, I think, for all the committees. We heard earlier, committees provide feedback. We listen to them. I want to say I'm extra pleased that we had a lot of representation in that through HAC with yourself and staff and the consultants. I believe they answered very many questions that made the majority of HAC feel more comfortable with the project. Just second to that, and just a comment, I think from what I'm seeing in terms of how you're preparing for this major project and hiring the coordinator, and I think you have a project PMO office, I think it's really a great start from my perspective, from what we didn't really have, or maybe we did, but it wasn't as evident for other major projects. So for me, it's really exciting that you're actually starting at that level, and if you have a good project management team, obviously some things can happen, some slips could happen, but I believe if you keep on track and on top of that, you'll have a very exciting build here, bearing any unforeseen major issues. So I'm looking forward to this, and just wanted to thank you for all the work you put in personally and your team. So done a great job. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Mayor Marakis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through to Ms. McDougall. Ms. McDougall, the community engagement piece, and it's continuing obviously throughout this whole process. Just wondering what are staff hearing from the community?
Ms. McDougall.
Through Mr. Chair, I know our manager of communications certainly would have some other additional components, but what I understand, the feedback I've also obtained from our participation in these groups, the GO Train station, from our special events booths, the public is very positive, receptive of it, and generally speaking, and when I say generally, I'm saying majority of the people are very in favor of it. If there's any reservation, they're quickly clarified, and they're swayed to the happier side once they've had the information shared with them about the project. They get their questions answered. They're generally much more satisfied with being aware. In some cases, they, particularly the GO Train, they were not aware of the project, so it was a good educational piece, opportunity for us to get out there and get in front of the groups. To the flip side, we've actually had people already asking about booking space. So there's a wide array of interest in the community, and certainly general excitement about this project and what it can do for Aurora.
Thank you, Mr. McDougall. And, I think it's great that we're going to continue that engagement right through this whole process and just make sure that everyone is involved in this as we move forward. Councillor Humphreys touched on it. We have a project management team in place. The design review panel has gone through this, the community engagement. So we've taken this project to another level, I think, compared to other projects that this town has done. And so I'm happy with the continual consultation throughout all the public, and so I think this is I think everyone is aware that I think this is an incredible project, and I think this is the right time for the town of Aurora to do this, and it's exciting times. So thank you for the report and the update.
Thank you. Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through Mr. Chair to Ms. McDougall. I know throughout this whole process, the last 12 months especially, there's been many comments about the brown cladding, and including around council. And I'm wondering why the design, the architects created no other options. I know it's been mentioned here by the Heritage Advisory Committee, and I didn't really press into it because my wife always said I had poor taste, so I kind of doubted my own perspective, but I did hear it from everywhere else. And so can you kind of speak to why there were no other alternatives in terms of the external facade?
Ms. McDougall?
Certainly, I'll do my best through Mr. Chair, and if need be, the architects might be even better to answer or respond to that as to their flair, why they'd chosen. But I do know that based on the shape and design of a black box theater, it's rectangle, it's square. Yeah, it has to be, it's a very ordinary shape. To create it architecturally, design it, tweak it, there are limited options in that, especially when you implement the heritage requirements of making sure that this design of this addition is not larger than the existing Church Street School. So that when you're standing on Church Street, you can look at the school and you can't see the addition. So there are physical limitations when you look at the footprint of the building that we're trying to build, trying to put everything in it that we're trying to put in it, and you have a black box at the top that is ultimately a square box. So it did limit what could be done. Certainly from a facade perspective, there may be some different enhancements, but I know that there was some particular interest in the flair of the wrap, just simply because of its natural properties, of its aging properties, in part, to stay in context with the old school, to give it that sense of aging and the concepts of that state. But if you may, I'd be happy to call up either Thomas or Roland just to add to that if council will permit. I'm sure they have their own, from a design perspective, and I know it is certainly a personal preference, personal choice, as well, a personal interest. But I know from an architectural perspective, they probably have some insight into why they've come with what they have.
Councillor Kim, would you like to hear from the architects?
Sure, that'd be great.
Can we get a motion to waive procedural bylaw? Councillor Thompson, Councillor Kim, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Go ahead.
Thank you. I think Robin did actually an excellent job describing what the challenge is with this building. It is a black box theater, as she said. Many of the sides of the building, the principal facades of this building, even though they're facing, say, Victoria Street or the square itself, or to a lesser extent the parking lot to the north, they're all kind of principal public facades. So you're walking all the way around this building any time of day. It's a public building, and it's seen and perceived from all different sides. But the actual object that it is just that, a black box. It's a very simple, unadorned, featureless structure. So the challenge for us was how do we meld that, which is very homogeneous and not very interesting, with the very valuable heritage asset you have in the schoolhouse itself. So we thought we could come up with a facade that played with the idea of a layering of the facade. So the materials that you see here, these are some of the experiments we've done in terms of creating this mesh or grillage around the building and setting that off in front of the building, which does have some windows. There are some windows to the lobby areas. We of course have the wonderful glazed atrium that separates the theater from the existing schoolhouse building itself too. But this grillage would then run all the way around the building and provide opportunities for lighting and for different lighting effects to happen. One of the pleasures of buildings like the old schoolhouse is the articulation around the windows that you get, the window headers, the brick coursing. We don't have that with the black box theater. We have a very planar structure. So this introduces a layer of intricacy to the facade in a very straightforward manner, but also allows us to light it in quite spectacular means during dusk and dawn hours. So we see this as casting sort of a warm light onto the square and being a great complement to the existing schoolhouse. The other point to make, and what these samples that you're seeing here are trying to make here as well, is that there's a kind of nobility of materials that age gracefully with time, which is what the schoolhouse is doing, and we want this building to do it in its own right for this age.
Thank you for the explanation. I think given the uniqueness of the building, you always have differing views, and for us, it's important for us to be able to explain that to our constituents. So thank you very much.
If I may, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think one of your questions was, why didn't we have multiple options?
Yeah.
Could you speak to that?
We did look at a number of cladding options in advance. Those were all relatively quickly discarded, again, because of the lack of articulation that we had available to us. Like, is it going to be metal panel? Is it going to be spandrel glass? They're all very planar and unremarkable. But the richness we got with this material we thought was very compelling. So we've been pushing for this for quite some time now.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Kim?
Yeah.
Councillor Thompson?
Actually, I have a question for the consultants as well. Through you to the consultants. Recently, the design review panel went through it, made a few suggestions with regards to glazing and so forth. I don't know if you've seen the notes or not, but they certainly were circulated to members of council today. Will you be incorporating some of those suggestions as a future refinement to the design?
We'll be looking at what we can do with regard to that. As I mentioned, the challenge is that it is just that, a very it's a black box. It has no openings in it typically. The facade that the design review panel mainly evinced concern about was the Victoria Street facade, which is essentially the service end of the building, because we have to bring services in somewhere. That's the loading bay, that's our exit stair, that's some of the service rooms to the building around that facade. We're hoping that through the lighting effects we can use on the grillage, that facade will not be blank. It's very difficult to render this in a simple 2D graphic that you can understand, but we're hoping we can convince them through using the grill and the lights. There may be opportunities for secondary windows in that facade, which we could also use. That's really what's happening on the lobby side of the building, because the lobby itself is fully glazed and opens behind the grill, so that's going to add a lot of richness to that facade, and we can look at doing something similar on the Victoria Street side too.
Thank you. And as Councillor Gartner asked earlier, as it goes through various committees, be it the design review panel or accessibility committee or heritage committee, I mean, there are a number of comments. Can we assume those comments make it back to you and that you are, taking them into consideration?
Well, certainly we take advice from anybody and do our best to incorporate it. Our goal is to make a facility that everybody's going to be happy with.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question, which is a motion to receive. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. R3, financial update. Could I get a motion to receive? Councillor Thompson, Mayor Marakis. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, I have one. Could we just get an update on the federal funding, the 14 million? Is there a timeline? I'm not sure who, Mr. CAO, or who that would.
Through Mr. Chair, I'll take that question. We continue to work away at that. We have had follow-up from Heritage Canada on some more information and submissions they've requested from us to support the original application. We also continue to work with the province. I know the mayor has followed up directly with ministers, and we've requested meetings with the ministers as well to introduce them to the project and make sure that at the ministerial level they're aware. We are sort of probably going to get somewhat caught up in the election process, and we're also waiting, as is the province, for the province and the federal government, all municipalities in the province, waiting for the province and the federal government to agree on how they're going to move forward with infrastructure projects. We're anticipating a call from the province for infrastructure funding for cultural projects. They have announced that call will be coming, but they have yet to actually post that. So once that official call is made, we will be submitting this project. And the assumption is that we would be working towards some sort of matched provincial federal contributions between the provinces call for them and the Heritage Canada program. So they're both active and in progress, but we don't have really any specific advances to report of yet.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? See none. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. R4, Library Square, Church Street parking design options, recommendation report. Could I get a motion to receive? Mayor Marakis, Councillor. I am on 4. Oh, sorry. There are 3. So Mayor Marakis, Councillor Humphries. Any comments or questions? Moving staff report. Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. R5, municipal water funding approach. Could I get a motion? We have a presentation. Mr. Murphy. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor, members of council. My name is John Murphy. I'm here from DFA Infrastructure. We were retained by the town to undertake a stormwater financing study or review of your stormwater charge. Okay.
Just speak closer to the mic if you could.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
There we go.
And we're off. The purpose of this presentation is to review 2 aspects. The stormwater funding options available for municipalities in the recovery of their stormwater costs and stormwater incentive programs that can be offered to stormwater users. We threw this slide in to show where the town is in relation to other comparable jurisdictions in regards to the per capita cost for stormwater. And as you can see, the town of Aurora is somewhat in the middle. This does not reflect the state of stormwater infrastructure, nor does it look at future stormwater needs. But it just sort of gives you indication that you're not out of line with other jurisdictions. So currently, the stormwater funding approach for the town, you have a user fee, which is unlike most municipalities which recover stormwater costs from the property tax bill. Now this was done in, I believe, 1998. Now I can't really say whether Aurora was the first municipality to implement a stormwater user charge, but this was over 20 years ago. So many municipalities are currently looking at implementing a stormwater user charge. So I don't know whether any members of council were sitting at that time, but that was a very smart decision. The hardest part of establishing a stormwater user charge is getting it off the tax bill. How you develop that stormwater user charge, that's what we'll be talking about right now, but the fact that you have a user charge, that's the hardest part of the entire process. So your charge really is a flat tiered charge. You have one charge for residential properties and one charge for non-residential properties. The revenues you generate from that user charge it goes into a reserve, and that reserve is drawn upon to fund stormwater related costs, both operating and capital. I believe you have a target balance, which is twice the 10-year average annual reserve draw. So what you have is a reserve balance that can accommodate your stormwater needs for 2 years should you not decide to impose a charge. Obviously that wouldn't happen. So the different funding options that currently are considered or used or available to municipalities are recovering stormwater charges from the property tax base, which is what most municipalities currently do, but many municipalities are getting away from that because of well, the main driving factor is the fact that stormwater costs are going to be increasing significantly over the future years for most municipalities to address climate change. So when you have a cost that's going to increase significantly, you'll be competing with other municipal services for that, piece of the pie. And so that is a driving factor for most municipalities to getting it off the tax bill and onto a separate user charge. Another option is looking at a dedicated property tax or just a flat fee, which is a user charge, but not really fair or equitable. Everyone pays the same. I don't think there's anyone who does that. A tiered flat fee, that's what the town currently has. It's very basic, a fee for residential and a fee for non-residential. A tiered single-family unit, I believe that's what the city of Mississauga does. It's quite complicated, very expensive in regards to administration. A unique approach is, the term is development intensity. That's what the town of Newmarket employs. They took an innovative approach to establishing a stormwater user charge. And of course, the final and probably the most complicated and expensive way is a variable rate, where every property has a unique charge based on the imperviousness of that particular property. When we evaluated those different funding options, we looked at various principles. Fair and equitable, obviously that we felt was probably the most important in regards to recovery of a cost. A user fee obviously needs to be fair and equitable. The option needs to be considered a dedicated funding source. Property tax is not a dedicated funding source, although it is a source of funding. But like property tax, you're competing against other municipal services, and you may not necessarily get all the funds that you need to deliver your service. Ease of administration, of course, the easier it is to administer a user charge, the less cost you're going to, or less value-added cost you're going to incur. The more complicated, it can be very expensive to administer a user charge, and I'm aware of some municipalities that spend a lot of money in just administering the program to recover cost for a service. We also looked at environmental benefits. That really focuses on, can the user charge be used as a tool to promote certain public policy objectives? In this case would be to minimize stormwater runoff. Is the option financially sustainable? An example with property tax, typically there's guidelines. A program may have be given a 2% increase, but that may not be adequate to fully deliver stormwater or to fund the stormwater costs that are necessary to deliver stormwater services. And how defensible and transparent is the user charge? So when we evaluated the different funding options, the development intensity approach employed by the town of Newmarket was rated highest. And that had to do with the fact that it had it was rated high in regards to fair and equitable, high in regards to that it was a dedicated funding source, medium in regards to ease of administration. It's not as simple as, calculating a property tax or just calculating the cost divided by the number of users, but it was something that could be administered fairly effectively and affordably. It can be used to promote environmental benefits, i.e. encourage the reduction of stormwater runoff. It is financially sustainable because the user fee would be set at a rate that would recover the necessary funds to pay for stormwater related costs, and it's fairly defensible and transparent in regards to how it's calculated. So as I just said, the development intensity approach is deemed to be the best option in regards to the evaluation criteria that we considered. It's, again, rated high in all aspects and medium in regards to the ease of administration. Now, the development intensity approach really is a function of a property size and the runoff level group rate, and that runoff level group rate is where you get the administrative costs involved, because there's a calculated requirement to calculate looking at statistical samples of the types of properties out there and the imperviousness of those types of properties. I don't know if I want to go through all that. I don't know if I have much time left, but it's fairly efficient in regards to establishing those groups. I said the town of Newmarket took an innovative approach. It does provide a unique charge for each property based on that property size and the statistical imperviousness of that type of property. So what we've recommended in the short term, continue to employ your user charge approach, but in the long term, consider the development intensity approach.
Can you just wrap it up, if you could?
It's rebates, education in regards to looking at stormwater management. What we recommended is that just look at the education aspect of stormwater management in regards to reduction of stormwater runoff. When you look at the credits and rebates, what you're doing is actually reducing the amount of revenue that you generate, and that it may not be appropriate at this point in time.
Great, thank you. Motion to receive. Could I get a motion to receive the presentation? Councillor Humphreys, Councillor Gilliland. Any comments or questions? Councillor Kim.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. You know, on the attachment in the table, it states that the flat-tiered and the development intensity approach were medium level of challenge to administer, and yet on page 6 of 11, as I was reading, it states that the development intensity approach is relatively easy to administer and more fair than a tiered flat approach. Then the last paragraph says that development intensity approach is significantly more complex. So it seems to kind of have opposing viewpoints. So can you confirm whether these two methodologies, which are they both basically the same level in terms of administration, or is one more challenging than the other?
Well, the tiered flat fee approach could be as simple as what you're doing, a charge for residential and a charge for non-residential, or it can be very complicated based on a multiple of aspects. It's all depends on how sophisticated you want the fee to be. So with the development intensity approach, they used statistical samplings on the types of properties and the imperviousness of those property groups to come up with an average and apply that average to a property based on the property size.
Okay. So I guess what you're saying, through you, Mr. Chair, is that there's a broader, the goalposts are wider in the flat tiered or tier flat approach, so you can make it as complicated as you need to or as simple as you need to.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. R6. Sorry. Motion, recommendation, staff recommendation. Did I get a motion? Councillor Thompson, Councillor Gilliland. Any comments? Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Through to Mr. Waters. There's been conversation around the table, table with regards to climate change, flooding. I know Councillor Gartner has a motion she'd like to discuss next week. And just through you to Mr. Waters, within the report, there's references to the Comprehensive Stormwater Management Master Plan as well as the Stream Management Master Plan. Both of them make references to, taking into consideration, flooding, impacts of the town, and so forth. So are these among other things that you and your department are doing to take into consideration both the reality of what's happening environmentally as well as those concerns about flooding and I guess the changes that not just our municipality but all municipalities are seeing?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, yes, Councillor Thompson is quite correct that the town is currently undertaking a study with a consultant to deal with creek management that will be presented hopefully to council in the fall. We're targeting October. There's a third and final open house on the study being scheduled for September. And following that, we'll finalize the study and bring it forward to council for consideration. And it is considering all the changes that are occurring now due to climate change. And we'll be making the appropriate recommendations based on that analysis.
Thank you. It's unfortunate Councillor Gartner isn't here for that part, but I'm sure that she'll be interested next week to learn that, because I think while it's a concern for everybody, it's great to hear that staff are well on their way to working on that one. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. I'm just going to survey the audience to see if anyone is here for a particular item. It might be R8, but no, so we'll move ahead. R6, Yonge Street Rail Bridge Metrolinx Architectural Cladding Concepts. There's a presentation. Mr. Langridge, welcome.
So, good evening, Council. We're going to show you the recommended concept for the architectural cladding on the new Metrolinx bridge, as well as the existing one over Yonge Street. So the image you see here is the existing situation looking north on Yonge Street. So the red circle shows the location. The existing railway crosses over Yonge, immediately north of Industrial Parkway, on the north edge of the Oak Ridges Moraine. And so there's a significant transition in character at this point from the forested natural landscape of the moraine to the more built-up character of downtown. A couple of aspects of local history that are interesting. In the early to mid 1800s, Charles Doane, the postmaster, and I also see that he was one of your first mayors here, was influential in renaming the village from Matchell's Corners to Aurora after the goddess of dawn. So obviously an interesting man. I don't know how he managed that. In 1853, the railway arrived, and we have the wonderful historic railway station still from that town. And so key aspects that caught our eye as Aurora emerged as an important place. In particular, the name Aurora interested us. I mean, it's obviously a key aspect of the town's identity. And when you dig into it, Aurora is the goddess of dawn in Roman mythology, renewing herself every morning, flying across the sky, announcing the arrival of the sun. It's the Latin word for dawn. We've all heard of Aurora Borealis, the northern lights, atmospheric phenomenon. And it's also the name for various luminous phenomena in the atmosphere of the planet. And you get that distinctive, subtle, arching sort of shape. The bottom right photo is Jupiter. So it's a very evocative word and name, particularly when you compare it to Richmond Hill or Newmarket. So we were interested in this name and whether we might be able to perhaps respond to it in the design somehow. Existing visual character varies a lot right now through this part, from the forested natural landscape through big box suburban retail down to the historic downtown street facades and the railway station. On Yonge Street itself, there's actually a very long, straight approach to this bridge. Right, you come over the rise from the south and you drive straight at this for a long time. And it's framed by the forest on both sides, that kind of top right photo. And the bridge is a focus. You really notice it at a distance as being the only real built element. From the north side approach, it's a sudden dip and you see it much quicker. Some important town planning comments. The overpass should act as a south entry into the Aurora Promenade and be a landmark. And it's an ideal location for signage that identifies the entrance. We accurately modeled the existing bridge, which is shown in green here. This is looking west, and the new bridge, which is shown in grey on the right. So the geometric profile, the existing bridge is about, it's on the left. This is also looking west. So it's about 7 meters wide by 3.5 meters high. That's 12 feet high. The new bridge is going to be about 4 feet to the north, so gap in the middle, about half as wide again and slightly higher. So not insignificant amount of built form. So we are proposing this design approach, that the cladding design needs to work aesthetically from a distance and up close for drivers and pedestrians, day and night. We want to develop a design that responds to the distinctive Aurora context and provides a new landmark at the south entry point to the town. We want to develop a design that meets Metrolinx's brand and design excellence principles: bold, expressive, contemporary design with a sense of movement. That's what the structures are all about, is moving trains. And of course, high quality, durable materials, finishes, minimal maintenance. So I'm going to show you two concepts. The first one's called vertical fins. And so this is in the middle of the slide. You'll see the main building block here. It's a diamond-shaped aluminum extrusion. It's about a foot long, and it's colored differently on two sides. So the idea is that one side would be dark bronze anodized aluminum, and the other side will be light bronze. You can see the color shift that we had to choose from in those 5 swatches. And so there would be dark one side, light on the other. These fins would then all be positioned vertically, and each fin, like starting on the left-hand side, you can see the effect across the bottom of the slide. So we would have a fin on the west side that is facing with the dark bronze out, and then the next one would be 1 degree switch, 1 degree, 1 degree, and so gradually they would rotate all the way across the bridge. There's about 120 of these. By the time you get to the far side, they're showing the lighter bronze side. So it creates this subtle color transition from west to east, from dark to light. So this is symbolizing dawn. And so here's a rendering showing the effect. So from dark to light, one side to the other. We note that the bronze brownish tones we think work very well within this natural forested setting. You can see the natural browns in the forest, etc. Compared to, say, stainless steel. So we think there's a warmer patina there. There's also an option that we're showing on both of these concepts for a sign. That would be the word Aurora in a simple, clean-lined expression. And we're proposing that it would be located off-center over the approaching traffic and pedestrian traffic, slightly on the east side. So it's a little bit different and distinctive. We think that the actual font, typography, and the scale of the sign is something that we would work through with staff. A night view on Yonge, looking north. We're proposing a simple accent lighting approach. There would just be one floodlight on each side that can fire light in a way that isn't going to give any sort of light pollution into the sky. So quite a straightforward, but just to highlight the color transition, and again with the sign. The second concept, which is the one that we're recommending, is called double fin curve. So it's similar to the first one, but it has two portions, an upper and a lower, that are reversed. So one goes from light to dark, the other goes from dark to light, and you can see the effect here. You actually get an optical illusion, a kind of a 3D effect that creates this aurora shape. With the sign, by night, so similar approach, floodlight each side, and with the sign by night. And just finishing here with the two concepts, the vertical fins and the double fin curve, daytime. Daytime with the sign, nighttime. The lower double fin curve approach with or without the sign, and we'd be interested in your feedback and comments on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Langridge. Could I get a motion to receive the presentation, please? Councillor Thompson, Mayor Marakis. Any comments or questions? I do. Not question, but I really like it. When I first saw it, I thought, and your explanation of the rationale for it just exemplified and kind of buttressed my feelings on the design. I think it really works, and I think particularly the one with the Aurora on it. I think it would be a fantastic addition to the south end of town. So those are my comments on it. Any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Could I get a motion? Staff recommendation, Councillor Gilliland. Second, Councillor Kim. Any comments, questions? So the recommendation is Councillor Marakis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to briefly make a comment. I know Councillor Humphreys struggled a lot last term to get the what's there currently, and we always thought that there's something needed to be there, and so similar to what you mentioned is I think this is a great look for the area, and it's a great entranceway coming up north. So yeah, I just wanted to thank Councillor Humphreys for all the work that she did last term to get a sign there to begin with. So and I'm glad to see that it's evolved into what it has, and so I'll be in favor. So thank you.
Any other comments? Councillor Humphreys?
Yeah, no, thank you so much to you, Mr. Chair. And yeah, I mean, we, excuse me, we did that because there was really nothing there, you know, just a kind of a rusty, greenish, rusty bridge. So that kind of helped, and I wanted to thank staff. They pulled it off really quickly and were able to do that for us, and that was nice, but this is truly a beautiful look. It's very sleek. It's got a great, your explanation was perfect. I love the aurora on the top, so I think it's great. So looking forward to seeing this come to fruition, hopefully. So thank you.
My only one comment, and it wouldn't be me unless I mentioned it, in terms of alternatives to the recommendation, it says none. And you know my feelings on none. Surely there's, in case council wanted to do something else, there are always alternatives. Having said that, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Thank you. R7, improvements to Fleury Park washroom facility. Could someone put that on the floor, please? Yeah. Break. Why don't we take a few minutes? Yeah. Health break. Could we get everyone back, please?
Hey, Michael. Oh, sorry. How are you?
Okay, committee, can we move forward? Item number 7, improvements to Fleury Park washroom facility. Is there a motion to move forward the recommendation? Councillor Kim, Councillor Thompson. Any comments or questions? Mayor Marcus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Mr. Downey. Mr. Downey, is it possible to look at adding some security cameras as well into this, just due to the fact that I know we're specifically talking about the park washroom, but there has been a couple of break-ins in the building, and so there are some concerns from the tenants in there, the lawn bowling as well as the tennis, that this is a reoccurring problem, and so maybe it's something that we can just kind of add in if we can fit it in within the budget.
Mr. Downey, so this is Fleury
Chair,
Park.
Absolutely. In fact, we had a break-in on the weekend, so at this building, so security cameras are something we can incorporate in the design.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Sorry, this is Fleury Park washroom.
It's part of it's part of that building.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
Through Mr. Chair, just to throw a little caution, I'm not sure what the what the availability of internet is in there for those cameras, and that can be like significant expense to bring an actual fiber to that building. So
can we just look into it?
We'll look into it, but
Thank
I just didn't want to. The cameras are cheap, and that part is inexpensive. But depending on where it's located relative to their network, it could be quite expensive to bring a fiber to that building. But we'll check all those solutions out.
Thank you. Any other comments? Any other comments? I have one. I know we originally went out to tender for the design, and I just was wondering whether what we did before, is that what we're going to continue, or are we starting fresh with a new design? Mr. Downey?
To you, Mr. Chair, we are going to ask, and be coming back in a future report, that we go sole source with our existing architect that we've used previously, so that we don't lose that the funds that we've already put into that particular architect, and then make some tweaks to the design from that point.
So the intent is to utilize as much as what we've done before, and move that forward as opposed to starting from scratch.
Exactly. We felt it wouldn't be worth starting from scratch. We've already spent some money, and we've got a design that addresses the majority of our needs. So actually, on page 3 of the report, we would like to proceed with a sole source, but that's once council has approved the tender, or approved the budget.
And the other thing, just out of curiosity, have we ever approached Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority about, our concern, and I realize nothing's going to change because the ship has sailed, but at least to make them aware that how disappointed we are that, we came up with a design to fit that footprint, and they said no, and we lost federal funding, and now we're in the same boat, same design on the footprint, and they've said yes. Have we ever, I guess, communicated to them that, how disappointing that was? Mr. Downey?
Mr. Chair, I've done that personally. This is the reason we're sitting where we are right now. I had a meeting with them, I guess, a couple of years ago, believe it or not. It's taken this long, because we lost our opportunity, and now they're willing to make the exception that they weren't willing to make it before, and it actually cost the municipality. But that's unfortunate. At least we were able to convince them to reconsider and move this project forward. But the loss in that is the loss of the funding.
Disappointing, very disappointing. Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. R8, approval of capital project number 81023, urban design guidelines for stable neighborhood study area. Would someone like to put the staff recommendation on the floor, please? Councillor Gilliland, is there a second to that? Mayor Maracus, any comments, questions? Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. The only thing I'd want to request is I just want staff to be directed specifically to do urban design guidelines based on each stable neighborhood. I don't want it to come back as a blanket report.
Mr. Waters?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I remember receiving that comment way back in March or April, and we have given the instructions to the consultant to undertake to prepare 4 separate guidelines for each stable neighborhood.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you. No, I'm going to save it. Thanks, because I'm sorry, Mr. Waters.
Okay.
I'll talk to you offline, and then we'll talk next week. Sorry.
Thank you. Any
Sorry,
other comments?
Mr. Chair.
Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Notices of motion are just there. Yep. New business. I'll start to my right. Any new business?
Thank you, through Mr. Chair. Just a couple things. I've had some property owners contact me about some tow trucks that have been causing a lot of parking issues down on Bursey Street and Edward, and I had an opportunity to speak with Ms. Van Leeuwen, and I was hoping that perhaps you can give some clarity on some of the action that staff is taking in regards to the permitting.
Through you, Mr. Chair, staff are looking at a licensing requirement for tow truck drivers. Currently, we do not license tow trucks in the town of Aurora, and we've been working with Newmarket on some of these initiatives going forward so that there's some consistency between the 2 municipalities and our neighboring municipalities. So we're looking to bring those forward later this year or early in 2020.
And could you clarify what that means as far as permitting and allowing bylaw to do what they need to do to enforce some of these rules that are infringing on the properties of the owners, the residents?
Well, through you, Mr. Chair, by licensing tow trucks, we would set out some standards and provisions in terms of safety certificates, operational types of things, and if they were not compliant, we could introduce a provision in the licensing bylaw that says they must comply with all other aspects of town bylaws. And if they didn't, it would enable us to revoke their license and take further legal action.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And I'm really glad to hear you are working with Newmarket collaborating and having a seamless approach. So thank you for what you guys are doing. Second, I had an opportunity to speak with operations, and I just wanted a little clarity on the dog park situation. I know that there was an email sent about the mulch and the kind of material that was being used, and it is being ratified, and I was really happy to hear that July it's going to be closed to have that done. And I had spoken with Sarah about the trees, and I just want a little bit more clarity about who's actually responsible for pruning of the trees. There was some suckers at the bottom that clearly look like they're about half the size of the tree. And just according to, what their needs are, shade is definitely something as a priority, but we need to maintain these trees in order to have healthy trees to give that shade. So I understand that some of the volunteers had suggested that they were going to do it and weren't really given a timeline. It was just kind of in the next few weeks. Could you just clarify that for me? I just wasn't really satisfied with that response.
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Mr. Chair, so I was part of the email exchange. The The maintenance of the trees is the responsibility of the user group or the Adopt a Park group. However, we had no objection to coming in and assisting if they ask us to, but the ongoing maintenance of the park is the responsibility of the user group itself, and we respond to their requests for additional mulch, repair to the fence, that type of thing, but the ongoing operations is actually their responsibility.
Is there a way that perhaps we could do a follow-up with them to see what the progress is of the trees, since they committed to doing that?
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Mr. Chair, absolutely. I'm in communication quite often with the main contact for the dog park, and I can certainly send her an email and state that. Although I did talk to staff today, and as they say, we have no problem going in and assisting if that's what they would like us to do. It's we're just careful going in there and making sure that they're comfortable when we're in there, because while we're in there, we generally have to shut the park down or change operations of the park, and that isn't always welcomed.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Councillor Humphreys? Councillor Kim? Councillor Thompson? Mayor Marcus?
I was going to bring up Highland Gate issues, but I think I might wait and do it offline and then see where things fall next week. Because, I mean, everyone knows I feel like I bring it up every week almost. But there's a lot of issues. I think we need to ensure that we're pushing to make sure that they adhere to what needs to be done and what's been basically what's been promised. So so I'll talk with you, Mr. Waters, after offline, and we'll go a little bit more in depth, and hopefully by next week we can have some of those concerns rectified. Thank you.
Thank you. Last chance, anyone? Motion to adjourn. Councillor Thompson, Councillor Gilliland, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thanks for your patience. Have a good night.